Okay.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April meeting of the McCandless EAC. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. First order of business, approval of the minutes. Has everyone read and looked through the minutes? Does anyone have any comments, questions, changes? Nope.
Nope.
All in favor of approval of the minutes? Say aye, raise your hand. All opposed? All right, minutes are approved. All right, first up on the agenda tonight, Mandy, are you ready to go?
Hi, yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
I can't figure out how to mute this. Sorry, Judy.
That's okay. Would you like us to go on with the rest of our
No.
program, come back to you, or?
I'm so sorry. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I'm listening to Aspinwall's meeting tonight because they're voting on a coal tar ordinance in their council meeting tonight. So I've got multitasking. Everybody's meetings are, on the
Right.
same nights, it seems. But thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here. I believe Judy sent you guys some information that I put together for you from USGS and about coal tar. Coal tar is a byproduct from the coking process, and it's a tier 1A human carcinogen. So it's one of the really big bad offenders in our environment today. Our house dust is just totally loaded with it. And of course, our water is. What happens is when that sealer is applied to asphalt surfaces, it flakes off into microscopic particles that are very sticky, and they get stuck to the bottom of your shoes or your dog's paws, and it gets into your dust that way. And you ingest it, it goes into your liver where it binds with your DNA, and it causes cancer of the large organs. So it's like bladder, stomach cancer. They think it might be causing lung cancer in people that don't smoke, and some of the brain tumors that they're removing. So it's a bad one. It takes really one significant exposure to greatly increase your risk of these kinds of cancers. But it's a super easy thing to get rid of because there is an alternative product, which is an asphalt-based sealer that is the same price, the same look, the same efficacy, widely available. Coal tar is already illegal to sell in Home Depot or Lowe's or any of the big box stores, so your residents can't even go out and buy coal tar. The way that it's getting into your community is when someone hires a sealer. They buy it from a regional distribution center, and it's used on, I should have mentioned, it's not ever used on roads because it flakes off too easily, so it's used on driveways and parking lots and playgrounds. So what happens is when a bunch of communities get together and ban it, then the regional distribution center doesn't carry it, and it doesn't even get into your community. So this is a model that has worked in other places, and therefore you don't have to worry about enforcement or monitoring it. It's just never even coming in, period. So that's what I'm here to talk about. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? So Fox Chapel banned it last year. It's a crowd pleaser because, again, nobody's going to generally object, because nobody is harmed by it. The asphalt sealing companies, aren't hurt by it. They just use asphalt-based sealer. It's no sweat for them to use asphalt-based sealer. Same thing, same price, everything.
Yeah, and I know I had read some sites online. Now, granted, they may be the suppliers of the the coal tar.
Yeah.
That a couple of sites said that it was far more expensive to use the asphalt based. So
Yeah.
was that incorrect, or?
That is incorrect. There may be like a really tiny price differential, but in your average application, the consumer would never even notice. I mean, the difference would be so small that they wouldn't notice it. One thing I wanted to mention is that I'm a council person in Fox Chapel, and sometimes local councils think that we don't have this kind of authority, but we do. We've got a lot of authority on these kinds of things through federal legislation that has been passed through the years and was just reinforced in 2016 with the Toxic Substances Control Act. We have got the authority to make these kinds of decisions. We have, in some cases, even more authority on toxic substances than they do at the county level. So we've got a lot of power here. This is an easy one to do. And, you know, it's interesting when I present to committees with physicians on the boards, it passes like that. You know, because the science is there and it's tough to dispute the amount of evidence that's there that this is such an incredible threat to residents.
Just a simple question. Is there?
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it being used in the township. I think what Toby had said, it hasn't been used and so forth. What is the prevalence of it? Is it around? I mean, I'm not aware of it being used anywhere around in McCandless.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Did he say that it wasn't used in your municipal operation?
I believe that's what it was, yes.
Okay, yeah, that's very likely the case. But that being said, it's still on about 50% of our asphalt surfaces in Pennsylvania, 50%. And again, this is the kind of level of toxicity that it takes one exposure to weigh up your chances of getting this kind of cancer. But it's a lot of municipalities are already ahead of this, but it's still the driveways, the parking lots, the playgrounds. So what happened to me, the way that I learned about this many years ago, is we lived in Highland Park and we didn't even have a driveway. And then we bought a house out in Fox Chapel with a long asphalt driveway. And somebody knocked on the door and said, "Hey, your driveway's cracking. Do you want me to seal it for a couple $100?" And I said, "Okay, I guess if it needs it, sure." I was busy with a newborn baby at the time. And the neighbor who lives across the street is Jan Dropitz, who happens to be a famous brain surgeon in Pittsburgh. And he came home from work and said, "Oh my gosh, I think I smell coal tar. You better look into that." And that's how I started this, started to understand what it was and got in contact with USGS and learned from there. So that's what happened, but that's what's happening to your residents. There are these guys that drive around and they sell it off the back of their truck and they buy it from, you know, they're called distribution centers. So when you ban it, like I said, that distribution center doesn't carry it. When the guys go to load up their trucks with sealer, they're just loaded up with asphalt-based sealer and all is well.
So Mandy, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I guess there's two parts to it. The first is when you have found that other communities have banned this, have they also provided some substance in terms of like remediation, like how to handle, like if you have a driveway that has it on there, like what can I do now? Because now I'm scared because my children are going to get cancer and I'm going to get cancer too. Like, is there more to it other than, hey, we're just banning it? Well, now we're not going to see it anymore. Like, what's the next step? Because you don't want to leave people hanging.
Yeah, for sure. And if you've got a driveway sealed with coal tar, it's definitely something that should be top priority for you. So what we did in Fox Chapel is we just put it in our newsletter. We told people how to handle it. And there are two ways to handle it. One, you can do what Baltimore City did and get these giant machines that come with sand. They blast it off with the sand particles and then they suck it up and they have to dispose of it because it's so hazardous in some special place. Or you just reseal it with asphalt-based sealer and it kind of locks the coal tar and it encapsulates it and makes it much safer. So that's what we recommended to our residents, just reseal it with asphalt-based sealer.
How was it even on the market?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How was it even available?
The coal tar?
Yes.
How was it available?
It's a toxic substance. We don't normally allow toxic substances to be sold commercially.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, the EPA is a bit of a slow moving beast and, you know, we're not protected from all of them. It will eventually, EPA will eventually ban this one, but it's probably a number of years away. Now, many states have banned it at state level, but Pennsylvania is a coal state, and this is a byproduct from coking. So we're going to be the last to ban it at state level. In states like ours where it's tricky, USGS really tries to get them to ban it community by community, which is what I'm trying to do here. And then, honestly, once you get a bunch of communities to ban it, that gives you a little more leverage with the state too. But still in Pennsylvania, it's going to be a while. It's going to be years. How many people are going to get cancer from this stuff in that time?
So
I have a
do
question
we,
for you.
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Judy.
You said you instituted your ordinance about a year ago.
Yeah.
What has been your experience? Have you had people calling to complain that it's out there? Do you guys go out and test? How much has the borough actually had to do to follow up on this?
We're not looking to slap a lot of fines on people. So what we do is call all of this. I actually call all of the asphalt sealers that work in the area just a couple times a year, right before out there, 2 asphalt sealing season, spring and fall. I just call around and say, hey guys, just so you know, it's banned in Fox Chapel. And they say, yeah, we know, thanks for the call. We won't apply it there. We do not, many cities put their road crews on it. So they educate them. And if they see a surface being sealed, that is, they'll have their road crew stop and say, just so you know, coal tar's banned. Is that coal tar? And if it is, they give the contractor, 7 days or whatever to reseal it with asphalt-based sealer and encapsulate it. We decided just to get ahead of it, try to get ahead of it by just notifying the sealers. And again, once everybody bans, and there are several communities who have passed bans or have voted to advertise or, are in the process right now, it'll be a lot easier. Was
there any pushback from the residents at all? That hey, you're controlling what I put on my property, or did it go very smoothly?
People liked it. I think I sent you an article from the local paper.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we got a lot of thank you for looking out for us. We're so grateful. People were happy about it. And generally the reception when I make these presentations is, you put this kind of research in front of people, and mostly the EAC committees and the council say, yeah, this is something we want to seriously have a conversation about.
Mandy, could you possibly send us the language of your ordinance? That way it's something that.
You should have it actually. I think John sent it out with the minutes.
Yeah.
Got it. I read the minutes.
So yeah, it should be there too. Or at least with the agenda earlier this week.
Yeah, if you need it, just let I'd be glad to resend it.
Right, and I can resend them as well.
Okay.
I see it. Never mind. Thank you.
Judy, let's put this on our discussion list. In McCandless, we tend to be concerned about limiting residents' rights to do what they want to do on their property. I think this is definitely, thank you, Mandy, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm Shelley Sponholz. I'm a council member in McCandless and liaison to the EAC.
Okay, hi, Shelley.
Hi. I think the real point here is this isn't about trying to control our residents or our businesses. It's about, it's really simply about protecting people. And especially, I was aware that the big box retailers, I checked it out myself, weren't selling it. I really wasn't sure where then it was coming from. But certainly I am, I'm one of 7 council members. I don't know if council is going to be interested in passing their own ordinance, but what I'm pretty darn sure of is that council is interested in understanding this issue. And at the very least, and Judy will talk about this, is getting the information out there. Oftentimes it's about education on the front end, and which could lead to perhaps legislative action on the back end once people understand the reasoning, not a limitation of personal property rights, but this is to keep you from getting cancer. So anyway,
Yeah, and again, those are good points. And again, because your residents can't even buy it, and they're being unknowingly exposed when they
Right.
walk across the church parking lot, or their kids play basketball.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing as, it's does it fall into limiting personal property rights, or is it something else? It's almost like a secondhand smoke kind of thing, where except it's even worse because you can smell smoke, you can see smoke, but this stuff, again, it gets on your shoes when you go to the darn grocery store and then gets into your dust. So it's a little bit different.
No, I think it is. It's a very worthy topic, and because of your contacting our town, which was referred to the EAC for consideration, it caused me to do more research. And while I had an awareness, it was enhanced by what you presented us with, and it is definitely worth more discussion in our town.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear it. So I'm happy to come. I often come to council meetings, and I can be there again to give a 2-minute summary and then answer questions. Just let me know if you would like me to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. And we are also recording this meeting, and so we can make that available to council or any other interested parties that want to know more. I personally had never heard of the issue, which is just really kind of amazing and scary when you realize the scope of this. So I really appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, Judy, you're not alone. Most people have totally not heard of this. And like I said, it's one of the primary environmental threats to human health right now. So, okay, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everybody. If you need anything, let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Judy, just FYI, I had about 5 or 6 questions for her
Okay, I'm sorry.
she just left like all of a sudden, so.
Well, because I think she promised she'd be short, and I know she's watching the vote at, she said, another municipality right now. If you want to, I can share her information. Either you can send me the questions, I can send it, or I can share her contact information and you can contact her directly.
That's okay.
Certainly can get answers.
I'm not in favor of it. I don't think it's worth it, but anyway, go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's something we want to discuss now, or everyone just kind of mull it over. And I don't know, Shelley, is that something we should discuss here, or?
I think that this was referred actually by town administration to the EAC, and I think that these are my thoughts. I think that it's in the EAC's hands right now. You heard her presentation. You have and there was some good information that was provided to the EAC for their consideration. My thought is that, there's a lot of, there's a lot of ways to look at this. So I guess the most extreme, if you will, so it could be a recommendation, is to for McCandless to enact an ordinance similar to Fox Chapel or other many. There's been quite a few communities that have done it. I suppose on the other end of the spectrum is it not really a problem here? Should we do nothing? And then I think there's something in between, which is not going so far as to enact an ordinance, but this is, this is information. And I would say that most people, like the vast majority of people in the universe, don't understand the dangers of the Kantar product? And should it be considered for further communication, like in
Right.
tips,
And I-
education, even as, you know, being a part maybe of a speaker series? So anyway, I think that bottom line is that I'm not trying to direct the EAC. I'm just suggesting that I think that you all were asked to look into this issue, and you should have a further discussion maybe at the next meeting after
Yeah.
everyone has made sure they've had the opportunity to review all of the written information that Mandy provided, and kind of decide what the EAC would like to report out to council.
Okay. And certainly, like Dave, I know you have a list of questions. Everybody else, any questions you have, any thoughts, comments, feel free. We can, you can forward them to me. We can, kind of share our ideas if you'd like to before the next meeting.
Yeah, I have to agree with Shelley. I think that this is right up our alley, right? I mean, I think this gives us a good opportunity to have a say in something directly affecting the environment like this. And Judy, to your note, I had no idea. I'd never even heard of this, let alone the fact. I mean, I know that my parents, in their home, short little driveway, people would come up every year, every couple of years, and they would they would do the driveway. And I'll tell you how many times as a child I played and rolled around on that driveway, not knowing that, right?
Mhm.
The dangers associated with it. But I mean, I guess we all used to eat dirt as a child. Now children are allowed to eat dirt, but that's a whole different story.
Well, I'm hoping the dirt we ate wasn't cancer causing anyway.
Right, yeah, right,
Uh,
right. So, but I agree. I think to Shelley's point, I think we should all kind of get those questions answered, and then at the next meeting really talk it out and see if we want to make that recommendation either way.
Right,
Or,
and my thoughts are, at the very least, we can do a lot informationally with this. Even
yeah,
if
100%. Yeah,
if we don't decide that ordinance isn't the way we want to go yet, we can discuss that, but also discuss what we can do to provide the information to everybody, with or without an ordinance. I think we can play a big part in that.
I think the information part is something that can get started, and then actually if there's feedback from the community, then looking further as to whether we need to do an ordinance or not.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? If not, we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll discuss further next month. All right. Project updates up next. First on the agenda, Jonathan, the sustainability student project. Where are you guys right now?
yeah. So I had some fantastic meetings this week with both teams. I have some emails I'm going to forward to everyone on the EAC. They are turning in their final projects on Friday. So it is, or not Friday, Saturday, I think the 17th is when they're due. The Tony is on here, so he might be able to clarify that as well. But I did have a great conversation with both of them. The evolution of these projects have been just phenomenal. Both teams have put in a ton of work, and it's really evolved from just a basic thought process into these really in-depth projects. And what's really nice about it is that, and I said this to both of them, is that they're about 2 inches wide and like 10 feet deep. It's not like this really shallow project. They've done the research behind it. They've really made recommendations. They've even looked at where we as a community would like to go to the platinum certification from the gold that we're in on our sustainability, right? And looked at the gaps and how we can use things like the eco district and things and things of that nature to fill in and move ourselves as a community into that next level. So they really dug in deep. As for the business, the element of it, they didn't just put together all of the businesses that we have in the community. They they are using the McCandless and me to seek out direct contact with the employers of what their needs are and what their thoughts are about the sustainability of the businesses within our community. But they have also dug deeper and thought of ways to continue to grow that by doing things like a business team. And I'm trying to think of, hold on, what did they? What's the one thing they had mentioned? And I'm gonna send this email with updates of just some overview before we get our final projects from the groups. And I'd like for them to present also as well to council. So and that's really to kind of Angela and Shelley. I want to be able to get them on the agenda for the end of the month. Sorry, give me 1 second. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but so anyway, they and trying to dig through that file I brought up there's a lot of information in there. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that they really kind of grew this project out and aren't just leaving us with a document that says, here's what we think you should do, or here's what you have. They really developed a plan and a strategy that we can work from. And I also work with them to think about the marketing aspect of it. She's also talked to John and she's talked to RJ, and they really made it relevant to our community and social media. They've developed this plan around social media to help to educate the citizens of the town and the council about not only from the business standpoint of what's missing within the town of businesses, but on the eco district side, how we can even educate people what an eco district is and why it's important for us to have one. So we've got a lot of good stuff coming from these two teams. So I look forward to providing and them showing, but also maybe being able to kind of bring that to the table and show you the final project that they're coming up with. Tony, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I did want to add, Jonathan's been an excellent stakeholder for us, and we really appreciate the time and effort and guidance with the students. They've been working hard, and you probably knows, John, at times, this project can seem really big. The scope of the project can seem really big. So they've done a great job of narrowing their efforts into certain specific goals and tasks. So we're very pleased with the work they've accomplished. If I can put in a quick shameless plug, what Jonathan was referring to was what we call our sustainability symposium. So the students will be presenting all of the student groups. There's a total of 13 student groups, all sustainability oriented. There's two groups that work with McCandless that will be presenting. And I believe the time is at 10:10 a.m. and then 10:30 a.m. The date is Friday, April 23rd. I don't know if you're interested, I can drop the link to the flyer in the chat. I don't know if that's or if you prefer, I can email it. I emailed the link to, or I'll drop it in the chat real quick. Yeah, I emailed the flyer to Jonathan so he can maybe share it with you guys.
Yeah, that would be great. You just make
So
that
it'll be
available.
8:30
Yeah.
in the morning till it'll be 5 p.m. but our class goes 8:30 to 11. So
Okay.
one of the interesting things that might be useful, I don't know if it would be useful for your website or social media, but the students are going to be producing basically a 2-minute sort of, we call it like a pitch video. The idea is to kind of give people a quick overview of your project, and we kind of say we cater that to the lay person, right? Someone that's never heard of an eco district, for instance, right? So that might be an interesting thing to add to your website or something like that. Final reports will be turned in on the 17th. We do ask that the students share the final reports with their stakeholders. So Jonathan, you should be receiving those. Probably 17th is kind of weird. It's a Saturday. We gave them a couple extra days that they requested some extra time to work on it. But yeah, so probably the following week, I'm assuming you would get the final report.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. No problem.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything else, Jonathan? It's a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And next one should be real quick, I guess, real quick wrap up of the Deer management recommendations. I don't know, Ken, you want to?
Yes,
Yeah,
we sent in the recommendation to have suburban whitetail hunters in the township controlled lands and to facilitate them communicating with the various institutional stakeholders like UPMC and LaRoche and so forth for appropriate areas, and also making sure that the public is aware that suburban whitetail is available, and through all those avenues, we're hoping that the deer management plan can be worked through and that we can get the not only the deer population within normal bounds, but allow the rest of the environment to restore itself somewhat. So council did pass that on Monday. And so everything is getting started, and this fall will be the first hunting season for the suburban whitetail hunters.
all right. Thanks, Ken. And thanks for putting that recommendation together for us. Appreciate that and providing all the information as we went through this.
And
I had 13 does bedded down in my backyard today, and next month I'm sure that'll be 20 after the fawns are born.
and thanks for answering our questions on that too, Ken. That was awesome. Thanks.
You guys, yeah, you had good questions, and I'm glad that I'm glad you asked them. That means we're all paying attention. That's good.
Yes, it is. Okay, anything else on the deer? Nope. All right, next up is Dave. Litter Subcommittee report and the final report on the roadside cleanup. Once again, thanks to John for sending out the great update and summary of how well it went.
Yes, John deserves a lot of credit because he has me barking at him. He has Lynn Atman barking at him. He has Kathy Martins barking at him. So he has to deal with all of that. And I'm sure he has his bosses and other folks at town hall with all sorts of other requests. So super job by John to kind of pull it all off last Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The groups with people dropping out and even folks not showing up Saturday morning, things are kind of fluid there for a while, but basically once you get out there and you just start picking up the litter, that's how it gets done. We had, yes, and also thanks for putting that report together. That was great too. Some firsts for this spring's event is we had the 2 Boy Scout troops involved. They did the McKnight Ingomar Road interchange, which is our EAC Adopt a Highway area. They did the banks along the ramps, and there's some steep inclines with I guess I'd call them ravines down in there that have collected trash and anything that falls off a truck as it's making a turn around the ramp. They pulled all of that stuff out of there, and we've been trying to, well, hoping that somebody would come forward and for the past couple of years to take that on, and they were great doing that. Another first is we had Senator Lindsey Williams had a crew from her office, had a crew from Representative Rob Mercuri's office. So that was good. Also, kind of a first time for that. Our usual town council members, Angela and Kim. Shelley was out of town, but she's always super supportive of us anyway, so that's good. Numbers, I think 100 or so people, 200 so bags of trash. Sometimes it's difficult to keep count because the public works crews are flying around picking up bags that may or may not have been counted already. But yeah, that's about it. I think, John, anything else significant, or we haven't looked ahead for a fall date yet. That's probably too far off, but
That'll be the next step.
next step, yeah. Right now, I think we're October 16th. Saturday, the 16th would be our fall, so we'll check into any kind of conflicts that might come up on that date. Any questions, comments?
No, good job, everyone.
Judy, how was your experience? I didn't even.
No, it was fine. The group all met up there. I think I did the majority of the Wexford Flats. But it was, I mean, it's a nice day for it. And I believe the rest of my group went, and they were doing more. They went down in a ravine somewhere, because when I met at the meeting place at noon, nobody was there, and I thought everyone went home. But apparently they were out there longer. So, but everyone showed up. It was well done. Okay.
Okay.
All right, if that's it, Dave, then we'll move on to green space update. Jeff, I guess we've had a very active couple of days, couple of weeks with the grant progress. So if you could bring us all up to speed between you and Shelley, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably more Shelley. She's probably going to know more about it than me. So even though I see that I'm on for 10 minutes, everybody else is on 5. So
Well, that was
don't be
that
jealous.
was back.
Don't be
Well,
jealous.
us guessing last week, not sure how the council meetings were going to go. So
Yeah, so all I can do is kind of relate to what I did, and then what I know, and then which I'll probably have to defer to Shelley for some of that. So since the last time I know I wasn't on last meeting, but before that, I mean, Ken and I met with Adam. I might have already said this as well. And we got prepared for it. Also with Gateway for Mike Albright for the engineers. And then I believe it was on the 19th, they sent something over to Bob, who forwarded it to me to review. So it was quite a shock and surprise for the amount that the engineers proposed for not only their fees, but for the total project. So and then I saw the grant was finished today for the DCNR, and then it was quite a surprise to me, because I had no idea what the amount was going to be, what they trimmed off of it. So I got to see the final map and then the amount. So I don't even know, other than seeing the map and some of the pieces on there, what was actually really included in that, other than reading it. So, and I just got it today. So and then I'm assuming that the next step is to look at the trailway or greenways trails grant for the next step, which would be and to back up, the DCNR grant was a 50% match. I think was part of the point of contention too, as well. So I know Shelley can shed some light on that, where the greenways and trails will be up to 225,000 at a 15% match. So that's a little bit more attractive, I know, and where that money will be allocated if we get approved for that. So that's what we'll wait on, both of those, I'm assuming. So that's really all that I know that I had done. And then, from what Ken and I had moved forward. So I found out a lot more today. And then as of yesterday, or whenever Judy and I spoke, and then from Shelley and Judy's and myself's emails back and forth. So without further ado, take it away, Shelley.
Thanks. So, I'm not, I'm going to try to be succinct. I'm not always, I know that. But so at the last council meeting, not the one this past Monday, but the prior one, there was some lively discussion about pursuing the DCNR grant because it was a 50% matching, which wasn't certainly as attractive as a 100% grant or a limited, but council did decide to submit a DCNR grant in an amount to be determined. And then what came up kind of in the middle of that was that there was also a Greenways grant opportunity that is due on, this grant application is due on May 31st. This was, and Jeff, you could be right. I actually thought it was $250,000, but it could have been 215. I'm not sure, but in any event, you were correct. It's only a 15% match. So we had at Monday's meeting, we had another lively discussion about these grants, and ultimately what council, this is my view, this is what I think we agreed to, is that one, which is for sure, we were going to apply for both grants. The concept being that the DCNR grant would be focused primarily on engineering work. And this is where it gets there's some things that have to be done between now and May 31st, but council had also talked about, as you, I think, mentioned, Jeff, that the original estimate that council received related to this trail development was I think for all of it, we would agree that it was quite high for everything. And what we learned was that it was kind of the Cadillac of trails.
Yeah.
It mirrored a lot of what the Rachel Carson Trail System has done, with a lot of hard surfaces, impervious surfaces, and so on, and being completely ADA compliant. I can't speak for council, but I think the direction we may be going down is a trail design that could be just compacted dirt.
Michelle, if I could break in real quick, sorry to interrupt, but I know I've heard this at the other council meetings too, talking about the Cadillac being like the Rachel Carson Trail. The Rachel Carson Trail really is a packed earth trail. The only part that would be anywhere close to finished is the recent add-on of the Harmony Trail. But I just kind of want to clarify that. I see a couple of your heads kind of nodding and shaking that Rachel Carson Trail is dirt for the most part, but
and you could, thank you. It was kind of how it was explained to me.
Right.
So
right.
I am not an expert on the Rachel Carson Trail design. So having said that, part of it was related to ADA compliant and so on. So my sense, from conversation, which you all can see the discussion on both the last Monday's council meeting as well as the one prior, is that something more of a rustic nature is definitely being considered. The thought, therefore, was, as I said, to apply for the DCNR grant to manage hopefully we can reduce what they're estimating, but to cover engineering costs. Which I might add, in any of the potential solutions to being a rustic trail, compacted dirt versus a combo versus a Cadillac version, is that it would take the same route that would be needed if in the future we could invest the money or afford to convert it to ADA compliant with compacted limestone or something of that nature, which I think is a great thing to know, because that would certainly be an optimal future state. So the agreement was made that we're also going to apply for this Greenways grant. And the idea there is with a more simplistic trail design that we can, we could even, town manager Grimm, I mean, it was a guess, he said that, it was his guesstimate, but thought that perhaps if we got the Greenways grant, we could not only engineer this with the DCNR grant, but we could also build it. And Judy and I have spoken about this, that if we did, and council hasn't decided what avenue they're most interested in pursuing as to trail design. But if, for example, we did decide to do a more rustic starting place, Judy and I have talked about this would be a perfect opportunity for perhaps the EAC to help the town save money by, possibly putting together a program of having interested people actually participate in some of the trail clearing and, things that just require people and I guess machetes or whatever they do to clear areas. So I'm actually quite excited that we got this support from council. And I think the next, so I guess what I think is on the to-do list, and so I guess is that we have submitted the DCNR grant. And I think, Jeff, you did receive the copy of the grant documents now. So we can, we want to pursue getting as many of the, as many supporting entities as possible, like local government officials. And I think you already got one just recently. Thank you, Jeff, from the Rachel Carson Trail System, right? Oh, Jeff, you're muted. Right. Okay. So we have time, but I think we need to pursue getting more politicians, local politicians like Mercury and Williams to provide letters of support. I know Bob has an entity that he's, I think, pursuing. So that's as to the engineering application with DCNR. And then between now and May 31st, town council needs to provide direction as to what kind of trail design that we want to pursue. Have our engineers provide modified estimates relating to that, and do the same thing all over again, is try to get the support from a whole variety of entities in the hope that we can achieve, that grant as well. Although I'm excited about it, I'm optimistic about it, but the reality is that we could get one or we could get none, and it would be fabulous if we got two, but that's where we stand. So I talked a lot, I know, but does anyone, I just wanted to kind of explain where we were, and Jeff, did I get you up to speed for what you think you need to do?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Shelley, and thanks, Jeff. Ishmael, I believe you are back.
Yes.
Ishmael is going to provide us a brief update of the solar energy program.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Yeah. There's not much to report in terms of the solar projects. I have done some digging around and I have explored some other companies as we agreed on our last meeting that at least just get some other options and so we'll be able to make an informed recommendation to the township. So Tony and I spoke was it yesterday, and then we discussed some stuff. But what I have done over the past few weeks is I have reached out to a lot of these solar companies around, and one of the company that I have actually advanced my discussion with is Scalo Solar, because I did my internship with them, so I know their managing director. So I spoke with him. What he's telling me is that the EAC, as he knows it, has, I'm going to use his exact word, they can't decide whether to go for solar or not. So instead of him coming to give us details of what he wants to do for the township, his question is, why don't I take it to the township itself? Because after all, the decision to whether go solar or not to come from township and not the EAC. The EAC is only going to recommend. And if you can go to them straight away and make his case, he was thinking that would be better. But he also, like I said, he gave me some of their programs, and everything that he gave me is also on their website, like the other company also. The big thing as Judas, I discussed with you earlier, was it yesterday? Yes, yesterday in the morning, was that almost all the companies are willing to do it for free. That not for free, that they can do it for 0% down. Almost all of them, they all have a similar business model, which means there's not much of a differences between what they will offer. So the decision is, some of them can get us some wiggle rooms in terms of the time that we want to go. Like, if you can get it this year, we can get a better deal from maybe solar RE. If you can do it maybe next year, you're gonna get a different offer from different company. So until we have a concrete date or concrete agreement that, okay, we are looking to go solar fully. So what do you have for us? Most of these people are not willing to open up their books and tell us a lot. But Tony has, because I think he's a resident here, he has opened up all his books and he has telling you whatever he has for us. And like I said, I have just recently installed solar on my house, and what I did was I went for a solar company by name Palmorto Solar, and I compared what Tony gave me. I compared that one to Scalo Solar, and I compared to other solar energy companies. And if I'm going for one, honestly, I will personally go with that of Tony's company, Solar RE. That is what I will personally have if I'm to make any recommendation. But it's not a one person decision. So I'm putting a short PowerPoint, and I will send it out after today's meeting. I'll send it out for everybody to see. It's about 6 solar companies and what I get from them, and we can decide in our next meeting which is the best offer they are having. But Scalo, for example, was honest to tell me that I would take it to the township, and not to come to the committee to for them to debate. He is saying that he's going to go to the township. I'm not sure whether he knows anybody from the township. So that's what he said. Tony, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just, I think what Ishmael is alluding to is, trying to find a few different companies that would offer some means of installation, right? So I think the township shouldn't have to pay for anything if they sign into a power purchase agreement or power service agreement. I think this is similar to the presentation that we went through. Was that in October maybe, or no, December, I think it was. Anyway, so the power purchase agreement, power service agreement, basically you pay for your electricity. The cost is less than your electricity payment now. And then after 6 years, you have the option to purchase the system after all the tax and credits and everything are deducted. And then from there, you can own the system, and your cost of electricity actually drops significantly more beyond that. So basically, you're paying you would be paying a loan payment on the system, and your electricity costs would be much less than what they are typically. So that's the power purchase agreement. I'm not sure, if you wanted to pursue looking at trying to find some grant funding, the system the size of, half of a megawatt is pretty substantial. So we're looking, maybe close to $1 million or so. So I'm not sure if you'll find a grant that size, and you'd have to figure out how to fund the rest of it. So anyway, those are kind of the two options. There's plenty of, I think there's, not plenty, there's a number of developers out there that would be willing to do a power purchase or power service agreement. If you remember, I mentioned SRE. I happen to know the owner personally, so that's why I suggested them. But there are other companies too. So maybe the idea is we get 3 bids from 3 different developers, see who can provide the lowest rate of electricity over 30 years, and go with them. So that might be the first step. But I do think in terms of the system itself, purchasing it as an entity that cannot take advantage of tax credits is not a good idea. So I think your cheapest way to do it and a way to save money instantly and not have to worry about any sort of down payments or anything like that would be to sign into an agreement with a developer that could provide the electricity costs. So yeah, or provide you a cheaper electricity rate. That would be through some sort of a PPA or PSA. That's my suggestion. And I think, there's a number of developers we could reach out to. It sounds like someone has already reached out to you or Ishmael maybe regarding that. SRE obviously is one company there. So if we found a couple more, or if we put out a public RFP, that might be an option too.
Tony, I have a question for you. You mentioned grants. Now, do any of these firms help you with grant writing? Where would the grants fall into this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about that. I guess I'd have to find out, but I think typically that would be up to us to determine grant funding and things like that. But yeah, I'm not sure if these companies would actually assist in the grant writing process.
Right. Now, Shelley, if you could chime in here, I guess, Ishmael has done the legwork, and between Ishmael and Tony, I think we're getting a pretty good handle on what types of service agreements are out there. What can we provide to the town at this point? Because obviously we can't recommend a company. That's my understanding.
Judy, about a grant, I spoke with one of my former professors. Said he is willing to help me to write a grant, but his first question was, has the township agreed actually? Because and I told him it has not left the committee level, so I'm not sure whether the township has actually agreed, and if the township agreed, and at what scale. So these are some of the questions that he started asking me, and I said you should hold on until I find more information from Sherry before I can give him any information as to whether he should go ahead and start putting stuff together for us to write a grant.
Okay. So we have to figure out our next step with the town then. what we can provide and what they would need from us.
So I agree with that. And I will say, I'm getting a little concerned. I don't want to say the ship has sailed, but I know that there is money in this year's budget to start to do the improvements and upgrades to town hall, and as one example, because town hall was one of the areas we certainly considered related to solar and so on. So I'm anxious to get something moving here. My thought is that there's a lot of steps to go through before it like gets to a council level. And I'm not, I haven't done the research, but I think that it sounds like, Ishmael, you might be close to being able to, and I think, much like Jeff has been sitting down with our town manager and our town engineers to talk about, the grants related to Wall Park, that it's probably not too soon at all to start the process of sitting down with the appropriate town staff to, they've never, I think we would want town staff's buy-in, town staff's understanding, town staff's potential recommendation to actively and aggressively pursue any solar opportunities. I think that's an important next step that we need to put together sooner rather than later. And it's not like I'm not seeing what you're seeing right now, so I can't comment on that, but I think that maybe that is the next step, to set up a meeting with Bob, through Bob Grimm. I can alert him when you're ready to start this conversation with staff, knowing what they're planning for town hall or other town-owned facilities. And we should, that's where I think we need to go next. This is certainly not something to go to council with. This is something to share and get buy-in from town staff if there's a path forward. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I see that you're on this. I don't know if you're listening, but do you have any suggestions?
Sorry, I was struggling to unmute. No, I think a sit down with Bob is the next step. The town council can't put out an RFP. I'm sorry, not the town council, the EAC can't put out an RFP. So we need to, if we want to move in that direction, I think that getting together with staff and asking them to help make a recommendation is definitely the next step.
Okay, good. Then, so, Ishmael and whomever, I'm happy to help coordinate, set up some kind of a meeting to discuss this, but I would say this in advance, that I think that, I don't want it to just be a conversation. It needs to be something with written backup. I don't know, guesstimates, estimates, different, if it sounds like you've talked to different companies, like real information, and as well as the potential positive outcomes. Not only to say that the town has solar installations that are, that are environmentally, good, but also that it is also a cost-saving measure. So, Judy, I'm going to suggest maybe, you head up trying to get with the appropriate parties to determine getting together some kind of organized presentation to facilitate a discussion with town staff, Bob and whoever else he sees fit, so that we can continue moving this forward.
Okay.
I can make one
Go ahead.
suggestion. I was actually going to invite Seth Berry from SRE here. Again, I'm not trying to push SRE. It's just a person I know who's done over, over 100 projects. So he has a lot of experience in this space. But we could invite him to either the next meeting or, whatever meeting we have. We can even invite him to bid, to give us a bid, or maybe a let's say a bid that he had that would be sort of representative, maybe to a different township. Because I think what you're getting at, Shelley, is we don't really have any concrete numbers. We don't really have any kind of anything to really go off of that are even remotely relative to the project right now. And so if you want, I can request from him some information, maybe, again, either a bid or an example bid, and he could even attend our next meeting and kind of be able to answer questions in more detail.
Well, I still have a question too. We don't even know what we'd be getting a bid on. Does it make sense to, I know we need to have information to present to town staff, but we also need some feedback from the town staff on where we could apply this, correct? And would it be easier to get numbers to work with if we knew what scope we might be looking at? I don't know, or are we just guessing? Because I know that's kind of what we did early on with some of the numbers. You pick some buildings and, but does it make any sense to have some conversations with them first to see where this might be applicable? I'm trying to figure out which comes first here. So we're not wasting anyone's time.
What I want to ask is that there's been a lot of conversation at the EAC level. Has any conversation occurred at all with any of the staff members beside Sherry and Angela? We talk about the township. Because like when you discuss this, it's like we are preaching to the choir. Everybody here understands the importance of environment, and it will be easy for members of this committee to go for solar as against to convincing the whole township, or even if you have some staff involvement. I think then we are sure, we can be sure that the township will buy in. I'm not sure whether you have gotten that commitment from any member of the township as to whether they are in favor to at least putting solar panels on one or even the burden. I want to get that commitment because that is actually what I was asked when it comes to applying for a grant. So it's the township. Have they agreed to this proposal that we are trying to propose?
I'll jump, Ishmael. No, they haven't. The only conversation that ever took place with anybody from town staff was, oh goodness, Tony, when was that? 2019? I think it was Tony and I and Kim Zachary and Bob Grimm sat down and kind of discussed this. Yeah, it's been a while. So I think that was the only time this was really brought up. Now, the tough part, Ishmael, there is that, you have me and Shelley on council, right? But we're only 2 of 7. So you've got to get, even if the staff presents it, you have to get 2 more people to vote for it. And we really can't we don't know how it's going to come out until we vote, that's just the way that's supposed to work. So you could put together a good presentation, a convincing presentation, make a good case for it and hope for the best. And that's just sort of the way that that this stuff works. But yeah, it's tough to get a commitment until it goes through the process of our government.
So can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Back to Judy's point. Is there a way, Ishmael, Tony, to maybe go back to some of the partners or relationships that you've already started to build there and ask them, okay, with some of these other projects on a local government level, did they start small? Like, did they only do their council building? Did they only do the DPW? Did they only, because I understand what Judy's saying is like, how do we even determine the scope of it without, or how do we say, okay, let's go to council and have this conversation, or even to the town staff and have this conversation if we're not even sure if it would be on a large scale or if it would just be a few buildings to start with, so is there a way to go back to them and ask them with their experience, where did they start? And like I think of a million things, like all the streetlights in the town could be solar. Have you ever driven through New Jersey? Every streetlight is solar, so there's so much that could be done, but where do you even start?
Well, yeah, no, good question, Jonathan and Judy. Absolutely. I think the two keys at the very beginning are how much are you consuming and what space do you have available, right? And so one of those is fairly easy, I think, depending on what areas you want to power. But if you can provide some electric consumption, either, I think, for instance, wastewater treatment facilities use a lot of power. Your maintenance facilities and buildings probably relatively not quite as much, but if we can get the electric consumption data, then we can start to build out an estimate, right? So we can start to build out a pro forma. We can start to see what returns are, or let's say savings are, and things like that. So, and then the other thing is, where do we put them, right? So what space is available? Obviously, we have some rooftop space. What I presented was just sort of a possibility, right? And just to give you an idea of what it might be like. By no means is there any, statistical significance or financial backing there, right? Just to give you an idea of what exists. For what it's worth, there can also be multiple phases. Typically, when you go through these processes, there is a certain amount of, you have to have interconnection applications with the local electricity. You have to have permitting and that kind of thing. So they would be, let's say, larger phases. You wouldn't want to do like one roof and then the other roof and the other roof and the other roof, because each one of those you'd have a lot of, let's say, soft costs and engineering costs and things like that. So, you could do it in two phases, for instance. And I think there's examples of that Seth could speak in more detail to this, but they're currently doing a second phase at I think it's a correctional facility in central PA or something, right? So basically, the correctional facility was saving quite a bit of money, and they said, well, we have more consumption, and therefore we want to build out the second phase and save a little bit more money, right? So there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, like I said, those soft costs can add up if you do too many additional phases, every time. But yeah, I'd say getting some consumption data for whoever it is, if it's Seth or someone else, if it's SRE or someone else, then that's important to have, right? So we have to be able to figure out, basically we want to size the system to how much electricity we use, or, obviously, typically we're consuming more and more electricity, each year. So we might want to project out 10 years and sort of size to that amount of consumption.
Okay, well, it sounds like probably several of us should get together, even between meetings here, and come up with a plan to have. I agree that we need to go ahead and get the town staff involved pretty quickly, as Shelley said before. They take on whatever other maintenance projects are already budgeted, and at that point, there'll maybe nothing left to do. So, I suggest we go with it that way. I can work with Ishmael, Angela, Tony, and to gather up what we think we need to present to Bob.
One little nuance, at least, if you were doing a power purchase or power service agreement, there is no cost, right?
Right.
The developer eats everything, and takes a portion of the tax credits. Well, I guess all of the tax credits, right? And then you would get the savings on your electricity bill. So as far as the budget's concerned, unless, again, I'm not saying we couldn't do like a purchase with a grant, you wouldn't be able to take advantage of the tax credits. That's the only kind of disadvantage there,
Right.
Being a nonprofit. So anyway, but yeah, I think if you did a PSA or PPA agreement, you wouldn't have to worry about budgetary.
Right. Well, but I want to make sure that the town doesn't go ahead and spend money on other options
Oh, gotcha.
before
Okay.
we can get the solar in.
Yeah.
So if we want to save them the money, we need to move fairly quickly. It's what I'm gathering, Shelley.
Yeah, I think this was something that was, I'll say punted to the EAC. Because it certainly isn't our bailiwick, so to speak, but it was something that, we don't have an exhaustive number of town staff to go explore every new opportunity for cost savings. And I think this was recognized as a very valid and potential cost savings and environmentally, good thing that the town could do. And it was asked of the EAC to pursue, explore, and recommend. So, I just don't want to go to town staff, our town manager, without having something to present to him that he can, dig his teeth into and say, yeah, we have to do something like this, or we can do something like this, or I'm not seeing, or I don't see how it works for us. And I'd like to do, I really would like to do this sooner rather than later, because I don't know, you can't put solar arrays like everywhere. And, that's part of that's part of how you look at this, is like, what kind of solar arrays, roofs, or freestanding, free space, so on. What can you physically do, and what is the benefit to the town? And I think that we've got to get something started to engage the town management in this, because they asked us to do this, and that's what I feel like we owe them, to give them some options, assess their interest and excitement, hopefully, about it, and then really get to the nitty-gritty of assessing what are the details. But you can't go to them with just a verbal, like, hey, this sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, I'm for what it's worth, I'm happy to meet. I have some time early next week. Or whenever, but I can definitely meet in the next week or two, whenever is convenient for you guys. And I'm right down the road, so no problem on my part.
Well, I will leave it to the committee, but whenever the committee feels as if they have something that they're proud of to sit down and talk to town staff about, I'm happy to coordinate it and participate as well.
Okay.
I would, sorry to kind of throw a little more in there, but I would love to see that too before you go to town staff, just maybe as a committee, for all of us to get some eyes on it, to provide some input.
Okay.
Good point.
Do you want, Judy, I guess if you and I want to talk, I'm not exactly sure what you want me to provide besides, the information that I've provided. And then obviously I can bring in someone who has a lot of years of experience to discuss with us. But if we want to provide him some information, we can actually get, I think, a reasonable estimate at least. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to chat after this.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much. I'm not sure what that would look like either, so we'll work it out. Thanks.
Yeah,
Judy, can I mention one thing?
Yeah.
There was an article in the North Journal back in February. CCAC is going through this same process right now on the North Campus.
Okay.
This article was in February. They said they were installing solar panels in March and April.
Okay.
Estimated savings was between 25 and 30,000 per year over 28, I think it was 28 years or so.
Yep.
The BAI group from State College was doing the work for them. Tony's probably familiar with them, I assume. But just mentioned that they're right down the street. I don't know if there's anything we can learn from what they've gone through or are going through what they're paying for electricity, what's the town paying for electricity.
Right, do you still have that article, Dave, or
Yeah.
the link to it?
I'm sorry to intervene. This is something that we, Judy, if you don't recall, that we sent, this was, I even provided
Oh,
the
okay.
name, the contact information for the woman who is the energy manager for the community colleges. And this was something that we were absolutely supposed to go and
Check into.
check into and speak with her, because that's like in our backyard. That seems so easy. So Ishmael, did you ever have any opportunity to speak with her?
Yes, I did, and
Great.
not only her, I also spoke with the Chatham University, the Eden Hall campus. It's earmarked to go as net zero by end of next year. So I spoke with her. I spoke with the Chatham also, and that's why I came up with Scalo, because Scalo is the one who undertook that of the Chatham one.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's not much of a difference in their business model. Like the difference is the secret is they're all going for the government money. The 26% tax free. That money is what they are going for. So any of them is willing to give us the solar without we paying anything.
Yeah.
And then she has also indicated her willingness to work with me, or to work with the members of the committee if we decide to go with their company. I've forgotten the name of the companies. She and I have another meeting, I think on the 17th of this month.
Okay.
I am going to speak with her on the 17th of this month, and then I can give you guys more details. What I have seen is that I think I don't have to wait until a month. I think whatever I can get, I can put it together and then email to the members, so that before we come to this meeting, everybody will be at least abreast of what we are doing behind the scenes. Because this is a short time to discuss issues like this. It's 10 minutes allotted, but we have almost 30 minutes already. So if you guys have the information before the meeting and you go through it, will be much easier for us to get a better understanding of the way forward.
Yeah, well, good. I mean, these are the things that, we can report to. There's opportunities with many companies, and I think Tony, the company that you are, not saying affiliated with, but you're familiar with their work or been involved with them. Good company. Scalo is, I did all my solar roofs at Giant Eagle with Scalo, so I know them. And as I think that Ishmael pointed out earlier, there's a myriad of companies who will do these things. So I guess it brings to mind, okay, I'm a little bit rethinking this. So yes, we need to go to town. We need to go to town staff as soon as possible. We need to educate them on what we believe is the opportunity value, maybe exclusive of what company, what group, and that at the end of the day, it would be if we got their attention and they were interested and council agreed, then it would be up to the town to do an RFP with the companies. And it sounds like between what and what Ishmael has investigated, that we already have a list of potential companies who could provide assessments and opportunities for us. So that's kind of what I'm trying to distill it into a reasonable pattern of how do we get from here to there. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is the meeting with the town admin is about opportunity, interest, commitment, willingness to essentially pursue it to the point of an RFP. And I think that's our job right now. I mean, people, please speak up if you see that path differently or your role differently.
I'm in agreement with you, Shelley. I think that's a good path forward. Next step is, kind of discussing with those that need to know and starting to get them educated and understanding what kind of savings and obviously maybe environmental impacts and things like that. Yeah, and so like I said, I'm happy to meet next week or the following week. We can get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think that, time's a ticking and there's stuff going on. I don't even know about, the improvements to town hall and, I don't know every detail. So, yeah, sooner rather than later. I'm up for it. I'll help coordinate in any way possible.
For what it's worth, I went through an RFP process. It was for a private landowner doing a solar farm in Jefferson Hills, and it actually worked out very well. I was surprised at the savings he received, or I guess will receive when it's fully installed, just from getting a few extra bids. We had a total of 5 bids, and they varied quite a bit. So I do not disagree with you. RFP is a great idea.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Let's move along. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Can I ask another question? A question for Tony. Is there anything in for the Biden's infrastructure funding or coronavirus relief, or they kind of all mesh together, but I'm not sure. Does anything in there change the way this game is played in terms of funding for solar? I mean, they talk about, solar all the time, so.
Great question, David. I actually, especially the infrastructure plan, I don't know the specifics on that or how, grants and things will be divvied out. Right now, it's very much so tax incentive based, which obviously doesn't help the township very much. But I'm hoping to see more grants and other means that are available to, let's say, nonprofits or non-corporations, right? It seems like it's very much so driven by the private corporate sector or whatever, even individuals as well. But yeah, I'm hoping to see that. I have no inkling or idea right now, but I'm thinking that there's got to be, because solar is going to be a part of the infrastructure. Along with making a smart grid and energy storage and things. But unfortunately, I don't know of anything in recent months or years that would assist in our program right now. I'm doing some grant search for the solar farm, which would be a little bit more, it's a LLC, so it's a little bit different. But if I come across anything, I'll be sure to let you know. I don't know if something like the RK Mellon Foundation, I know that they give a lot of money towards environmental projects and things like that. So maybe that's a possibility. Maybe they'll fund a portion of it. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure beyond that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tony. Thanks, Ishmael. We'll follow up this week.
Hey, thanks for allowing me to hang out and chat. I actually have to run, but I will be in touch. I'll send an email here this evening, and we'll get a meeting on the books.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Tony.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I guess we've discussed that one to death tonight. We'll move on. Real quick update landscape planting guide. Ken and I have been working with that, gathering information. Ken's gathered some things, and I've gotten in touch with folks on the Hampton EAC who's putting a list together, and gotten in touch with a master gardener, waiting for some other information. At this point, it's just almost information overload. We just need to put our heads together and put it in some sort of format and let Ken direct the right plants to put on there. So I don't know if you have any other thoughts right now, Ken, or we're just kind of working through it.
I've just been trying to get through this next
Yeah.
with the tax returns, so.
Right. So it's a work in progress.
I would just point out, just so you're aware, that because, social media and all that, that I had seen something after, apparently this was discussed at a council meeting about this this assignment to the EAC being turned into another of, now McCandless is going to dictate what you citizens can plant in your gardens. And so I just wanted you to be aware of it. That is so not true. And I think the goal of this, which I think you totally understand, is that developers have actually, we've never provided this, and developers actually ask the town or the planning commission or council, what do you want us to plant? Like, what is it you're looking for? Give us some guidance.
Right.
And so I just want to, say that, that is the goal of us. I have never heard anyone suggest that we're planning on, at this point anyway, that we're planning, council wants to legislate planting, being the planting police. But this is all about what's good for the environment, what is sustainable, all of the things that I think you did a great job writing up the project form. So that's what we're looking for. And it's rarely an EAC recommendation that I think will be helpful not only to businesses or developers, but will also be helpful to individual property owners as to what is recommended and why.
Some of the things are pretty straightforward, like when you get over into McCandless Crossings, they planted a bunch of red oaks along the sidewalk, and then utility wires got put in above them. Well, at some point in time, those red oaks are going to grow into the utility lines. And so we're trying to prevent, the only thing that one of the main things I'm looking at is trying to prevent silly things like that from happening in the first place. So it means doesn't mean you can't plant trees there. It just means you don't plant trees that grow so tall that they grow into the utility lines.
Right.
And also trying to avoid invasive species, like the tree of heaven and things like that, trying to keep it to indigenous trees that are, grow in this area. And some trees grow better in wet areas. Some trees grow better in drier areas. Just a little bit of guidance, just guidance.
Yeah, that's where I think I think it amounts to education.
Right.
It's like I planted Allegheny verbena, which are definitely a regional plant, but I planted them too close to my sidewalk in front of my house. And if my husband doesn't get out there early enough or enough to trim them, they now cover the sidewalk. So it's just, but it's just, what are the species that work best? What do we want to see in new developments? And, what can we recommend to our constituents that are the best plants that will succeed here for the right purposes? That's what I see it as.
Yeah.
I also see it really as the marketing of it. I mean, I think that's what's most important. I mean, you're always going to get naysayers, and you're always going to have people who think that everyone's trying to control what they do. But
right.
It's all in the presentation. It's all in the marketing of how, like you had said, it's about education, not about telling them they can't do things. To Ken's point, it's not like you can't plant a tree. It's just a recommendation that you're not going to pay the price for planting that tree by having to pay to get it cut down later on down the road. So I really think it's more about marketing once you lay out the plan to kind of catch those naysayers before they come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and I think this, by the way, I'm just throwing this out. I think it's much like the coal tar issue we talked about earlier, that this could be yet another, and maybe it could be a combined kind of speaker series, but informational, educational. This could be something that is not only something that, which is what council asked us to do, which was give some recommendations that we could share with developers, because that really was the basis of this. It wasn't to control anybody else, but it was like when developers say, what do you want? We can say, well, this is our list of stuff that we think works well, and these situations, and so on. And also, I think it will help our residential community as well in making their decisions about what they pay for in landscaping. So, yeah, I think we're on the right track here.
Yeah, I think we know what it is we want to produce. It's just gathering everything and putting it in a format that everyone can use. So.
Yeah, no, I think you're making good progress. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, that's it for our project updates that I have. We show community outreach on the agenda. Still haven't really come up with any of the annual events that are back on. John, I think you had said the community day is going to be a somewhat different format that's not set up for the booths like we're used to working.
Correct.
And been looking into the garden in the park that the master gardeners do normally in August. But last I checked their website, I did not see it on the schedule. So we'll kind of keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, keep your ears out for any of these types of opportunities that may be coming back. I've checked with the library. They weren't doing their Earth Day thing this year. So this is kind of a work in progress to get back into the community outreach business. Any other suggestions with that?
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, we'll get there. Hopefully. Okay, for this month's McMail tips, alphabetically, Ishmael, you are up next. Do you think you'd have time? I guess, when do you need it, John? By
I would probably want it by April 28th.
okay.
Wednesday, 28th.
Ishmael, could you put together this month's environmental tips for us?
Yeah, I can try. Is it by 28?
Yeah, the 28th, Wednesday, the 28th would be ideal.
Okay.
And just normally something brief. You can look back through the examples of things we've done.
Okay.
And if you need any help with ideas, you can contact me or contact John.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And just briefly, I did attend parts of the EAC network conference that was last Saturday. I missed the opening speakers. I was in the Wexford Flats picking up trash, but I'm hoping that they will make that available as a recording. I was told they would. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to contact the director of the program and find out how we get that information, and then I can share it with everybody. I did sit through a couple of the afternoon sessions, and one of them in particular actually was excellent. And when I get the information, I'll send it on, but it dealt with getting the community involved with your EAC. And there were some of these smaller boroughs, I'd say they were all eastern part of the state, do some absolutely amazing work with volunteers on their EAC. I was just amazed. And I guess part of what it boils down to is they build up their base. They all have very robust websites. They all have grant funding that they actually can pay for incentives, say for people to plant rain gardens. They get huge volunteer forces out to plant trees. It's really kind of amazing the things that can be done. So we'll learn as we go, but I would really like to make that link available for anyone else to see it. It really a lot of good information on trying to get volunteers engaged and involved, and with us coming up with ways to use that type of a resource. So I will keep trying to get those links and forward that to everybody, but that was highly recommended speaker. Okay, does anyone have any other thoughts for topics for next month that we need to add? I think we've got a lot going on, so certainly enough to work with. Okay, Shelley, is there anything additional that we haven't touched on yet from Town Council?
The only thing that I would say for tonight was that while we're in our meeting, because Tony has left, but Angela is still here and Jonathan, is that I asked our Town Council president, this is what I asked. Do you want to allow the Pitt Capstone students to directly present to council, or do you want them to do a video to be shared with council? Because this is how we handled it the last time.
Okay.
And so I did get a response, is that her suggestion is that we do a video for us to watch. And I agree with this totally, by the way, is I think this is different than what Tony said, you know, the 2 minutes, like this is what we did, or, you know, thing, that to have these students, not trying to impose too much on them, but I think it's worthy to do their video, like, and something like that would be a presentation to council. That is like each project, maybe 15 minutes max or something of that nature, 10, 15 minutes. And to be able to share that with council. And then we can certainly, and then she said, and then we could also, and share that, by the way, share that on all of our media platforms that we have, you know, like, and this is why I think it's good, really good, because, you know, we can share this on our TV station, we can share this on the town website, we can share this on, you know, any number of places. So it really is important and available to the community. And then that we could, if there were any questions after that, which, you know, I can follow up on, because that we could take it up in a council meeting later if, you know, we had such questions and wanted to, you know, get more input. So does that make sense to do it that way? I think we need to, somebody, Jonathan, I guess that would mean you talking to Tony. But he's familiar with this because this is how it was handled last year because of the pandemic.
Yeah. So just so you know, we've had some conversations. I've had some conversations with the students already. They, of course, have their peer-to-peer presentation that will be recorded of what the project, so the surrounding of what the overall project is to their peers. I have also talked to the students about creating a small video, just doing an overview that we would be able to utilize for exactly what you're talking about, both kind of a council perspective and one that we could present to the community. So it's more of an educational piece around what they've worked on and what the scope of the project is. Also contained within their projects are social media, you know, suggestions of how we as both an EAC and a council can present within the community this information as well that they're going to be presenting to us. So I think we can utilize the video that they'll create within their final project, the materials that they'll have already created educational wise to be able to present with the social media. And then we can use those two plus the video of their peer-to-peer to be able to give to council. So we're already there. They're just working through the finalization of that.
Perfect. I mean, I think that's fabulous. Because I do know, I truly believe that council is very, very, very interested in hearing the outcome of their efforts. It's a new topic, not anything that's been in my, well, as far as I know, been explored before. And I'm kind of fascinated by it. And I think that it will be great for council and to hear, as well as the community at large. So if we can set up that ability to share this widely, that's fabulous.
It's all within their plan and the scope that they've created through that. So yeah, I look forward to kind of, I've only had piecemeal pieces through it and some presentations that they're just finalizing. So I've seen it. I wish that I could give the full perspective. We probably need a whole separate meeting to really go through the depth of it. Like I said, it's 2 inches wide and 10 feet deep. It's not 10 feet wide and 1 inch deep. There's a lot of depth to it. They didn't just leave us hanging. They really developed a strategic plan for us to really roll it out in a smart and educated way, both to the consumer and to the town. So it's exciting.
I'm super excited to hear what they have to say. Super excited.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing. And the only other thing I just want to say in passing, which I think I said before, is that Jeff, as we talked about, there's some work to do to follow up with the grant that was submitted today, with maybe some more support letters from various parties that we need to work on, and I'll help you in any way I can. And then we need to get a grip on, which I don't think we have all the information yet to be able to do it, but between now and May 31st, which isn't that long, we need to get some answers so that we can do the same thing relative to the Greenways grant. So are you up for it?
Yeah, I've already started it. The only thing I ask is just the path of communication. So it needs to go both ways. So I appreciate that when it is done, but I just want to make sure that that's out there as well too. So.
Well, absolutely. And you can certainly call my phone number anytime. I'm going to be following up on it. I wasn't quite as involved as I admit I was not knowledgeable as much as I thought I was about where we stood with the DCNR grant. I just wasn't up to speed on, I knew all the work you did. I didn't know that, the background of, until they see the grant application, certain people aren't willing to, which is understandable, issue letters of recommendation and so on. So we'll carefully monitor that, and I will step in. And I know Angela has contacts, has personal contacts more than I do actually, with some of the local state politicians. So I'm going to call on her to, since we have a short timeline, to help you get all the stuff that we want to get together to apply for both of these grants. So,
right. And Angela was part of that communication with her and I in the beginning of this. So I do have that, and I know she offered to help as well. So we between the two of us, we have feelers with both McCurry and Senator Williams. So I think it's just the next step. The only question I have is, I'm assuming with that said, if they're asking for a copy of the grant application, is that okay? Or do I have the approval to provide that information to them? Because I do it without you know,
Well,
permission.
the DCNR grant, you certainly do. You received that today, right?
Right.
So the Greenways grant hasn't even been written yet, I don't think. So, you know, that's where Bob comes into it. And, you know, if Angela's been involved, that's fabulous, between Angela and me and you, and Bob. We can make sure that we're maybe better organized for the Greenways grant than we might have been for the DCNR grant.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem, because I already have like the contacts, and that's what they're waiting on, was a copy of the grant application before that they would write a letter. That's what they recommend, or that's what they requested from me to go to that next step. So that's why I asked permission for that.
So you're good with the DCNR grant, and so that the major focus is we need to move things along with the Greenways grant, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Call me anytime. I'll figure it out.
Oh, don't say that.
I'll figure it out. All right, that's all I had.
Okay, thanks, Shelley. Seeing as we have no public still with us, no public comments. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Do we have a second? Second, all right. So I guess all in favor of adjournment? Am I supposed to do that? But yeah, okay, all in favor,
Yep, you
say
are.
aye. Aye.
Bye.
All opposed? Nobody, thank you. All right, thanks
Aye.
everybody for your patience and for your hard work.
Thank you.
John, congratulations
everyone.
on your award for all the communications that you guys got. You know, that I saw
The
that
governor's award.
Canlis got
Thank
an
you.
award for
Oh,
the
yeah.
communication.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Is that pointing to John?
Yeah, at least on my screen.
We're all in different screens.
But the Brady Bunch.
John's here for me.
Good night, everybody.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.